I'll keep plugging away. I'll keep plugging away. Am I saving the world? Not using.
Hi, my name's Gideon and welcome to How Do You Brew? This is a show about coffee and music and just generally having a chat with some really good friends, musician friends of mine. So let me just say hi, Waterfalls Laugh.
Hello. Yeah, that's me.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm in the Netherlands for those of your viewers that don't know that. And we've just had a week of like riots. But our local Maastricht riot was not too riotous. It was more of a march. So
Did you get involved? Were you like out there?
no, it walked past my window, so I got involved in that. I was watching. But no, I didn't get involved. I'm not too bothered about my nighttime freedoms being taken away from me. So
Yeah, fair enough. So, Ben, this show, can I call you Ben? Do I have to call you Waterfalls?
I
throughout
think,
this whole...
yeah, I've never thought actually about whether as like an artist name it would be shortened to Waterfalls in a conversation, because it's like weird to think of it just as that part of the name.
Maybe
But,
just Falls. Maybe like we'll just call you Falls because that's shorter
I think
than Ben.
let's go with Ben.
Okay.
Let's go with Ben. Yeah.
So Ben, Waterfalls. Tell me, how do you brew? What's your process? What kind of coffee do you like? Are you a hand grinder? You know, just talk me through it.
All right. Yeah. Well, I've got some props in the background actually, as you might be able to spot. So I'm a big V60 brewer. Actually, I can't remember the last time I made a coffee another way. So it's pretty much V60 the whole time for me. I love. I mean, this is what we're drinking at the moment. It's Freed Hats. Love the packaging as well. It's kind of like a capsule. It's this is obviously an Ethiopian, but these guys are incredible. They're based in the Netherlands, and the guy like won World Barista Champion a few years ago, and apparently after they do that, they go into making coffee because everyone knows who they are. So but these guys are wicked, and these all just taste just like incredibly flavorful. That's what I really like in coffee.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is that beans or is that ground? Like how do you? I mean, it sounded like beans, so. Doesn't sound like.
Oh
ground
my
coffee
gosh,
to me.
it smells so good. I just opened it to show you, and you can't even see, but you can just see a dark hole. But it smells so good. Yeah, these are beans. Yeah, I actually, viewers, the man himself, Gideon, was heavily involved in buying me my grinding setup because I've got a Wilfer Smart grinder. So that guy, whack him onto the kind of finer end of the grinding setting, and usually stick around there for these really nice light coffees, and whack that guy on, grinds the coffees. Got about, usually it's me and my girlfriend Katie drinking one coffee in the morning is usually the average amount of coffee a day. It's just one, and usually we use about 30 grams to 500 grams of water, and yeah, it's just it's a great morning every morning.
And you got a V60, like, is that like a Hario, like the kind of V1, or is it like a Amazon one or whatever? Like,
no, it's a Hario one. Yeah, I think actually there's not massive price differences in the Hario. I think the Hario one's pretty cheap actually, isn't it? But yeah, we've had the Hario one for a while. We've got this lovely pouring kettle, which is a wax straight on the hob kind of deal.
I think I've got. Is it? What's the company? I think that's very similar to the one I've got. Is it an Amazon?
Was
thing?
it? Yeah, it's an Amazon thing. It was actually Ben's. So viewers, it's our mutual friend Ben who taught me everything I know about coffee. It was his. He was my flatmate, and he allowed me and Katie to take this to the Netherlands with us.
And it's got like a thermostat on the top, hasn't it?
It has indeed.
I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found with yours that if you kind of leave it at 100, it pours like really messily?
No, I mean, I to be honest, I don't ever go. Are you talking about Fahrenheit or Celsius? I just on mine, I've got like a little notch where it says like where you
Celsius.
should heat the water to.
Woo.
So
The red thing.
yeah, so I mean, for me that's like 88 degrees, so it's not even
Yeah.
like proper boiling.
Right, yeah. So I always go all the way up to 100 because well, partly just because Ben told me to.
Interesting. So you heat it to 100 and then let it cool down.
I always go all the way to 100 and start out at 100 because apparently, I mean, there's a James Hoffman YouTube video on this.
Oh man, he is just something
yeah.
else, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I would thoroughly recommend to anyone watching this who probably has a vague interest in coffee to watch James Hoffman because it takes it to the next level for sure. But yeah, he's got a video saying basically you can't really burn coffee with boiling water just because it's already been through so much heat to roast anyway. You're not really damaging it if you're boiling it that high. So he's done one of his intricate taste testing videos, like laying out different temperatures, and I think he goes for the boiling hot 100-degree one as the best, most flavour.
That's weird because I got a gooseneck with a thermometer in it because I was told that I shouldn't be heating my water to boiling. So I've not been. That was my whole reasoning for doing that. So it's really interesting to me that actually now people are saying you don't, because for a long time I was like, oh, if you burn the beans, you burn. I mean, I've definitely found coffee if you cook it with too much hot water, it's like it doesn't taste good. Like it tastes kind of bitter and charred. So I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Everyone's got a slightly different quantity or like water or it's really interesting. Yeah,
it's I would be interested to do that experiment myself actually, but this kettle is fairly temperamental anyway, so it usually kind of, if it's at 100 it usually drops off quite quickly, which means only the first pour is at 100, so maybe coming down is working, balancing out a bit.
And do you time it? Do you do you pour it to bloom and then you wait for 30 seconds, or like do you bother with that? Or
in an ideal world I do that, like sometimes I do that, but usually I now kind of the equivalent of eyeball it with time predictions. I usually just try and like do one pour, wait a good chunk, like wait more than I'm comfortable with on that first pour for the bloom, and then I usually just try and hit back every what I think is roughly 30 seconds. So
that's good. I think I'm often in a rush, and I've already, by the time I've like ground, because I've got a hand grinder, so by the time I've like ground the beans, I'm just like, okay, like just get the water on now. Just get it up to 200 grams and I'm away. So oh wow, it's really, I'm really looking forward to this series, talking to everyone about coffee. But I know that like at least 2 of my other guests that I've lined up for this don't drink coffee at all, so I have to like make talk about like tea and not drinking any hot drinks at all. But
maybe you could like
stay tuned for those ones.
You could really just like dive into what they do know about coffee and their experiences of coffee. Like why are you indifferent to coffee? Maybe that could be interesting.
I've got loads of questions. Ben, obviously you are a musician and an artist, and you've played in bands and you've done lots of solo stuff, and your Waterfalls Laugh, which is kind of your latest project. Do you want to tell me like why the name Waterfalls Laugh? Like where did it come from? What's your that.
I do want to tell you that. So there's a book called Mr. God, This Is Anna, and I don't know if have you heard of that book? No. It's so it's kind of like, I don't know whether it's like a classic in the Christian world or a classic in the outside of the Christian world. It was certainly a Christian that told me about the book, but it hits like it hits like very kind of anti-organized religion vibes. So it's
Okay.
like it's like this story about this little girl. She's between 4 and 6, and her relationship with God, basically. And so it's basically like a documentation of her life. She dies at 6 years old, which you're told at the start of the book, and it's just describing this relationship between her, who was initially homeless. This is like 100 years ago in London, getting adopted into this family. And there are some suspicions about whether this is just like a literary device by this guy who's written these books. There's 3 of them, because he's very like he's now dead as well. But he was very like kept himself to himself. So there's not much really is known about the validity of all of this. But it was certainly like presented as if this was a true kind of document of her life and their relationship, because this guy is meant to be the guy that kind of took her in. Anyway, all of that context to say, she has a very kind of like vivid, almost like, I guess, like insightful way of seeing the world, and that's why it's so interesting to read these books. And in one of the kind of events that she's describing, she has this dream or vision where she's feeling like really kind of grumpy and lazy, and she's like lying in bed feeling really lazy, and she describes this kind of like vision of being in this like different world where there's kind of like talking animals and, you know, kind of like Narnia type vibes. And all of these animals are feeling different moods, you know. There's some like kind of happy grass and animals and stuff, and they're all kind of like teasing her, and she's like oh, leave me alone, I'm just feeling grumpy, like I'm just being lazy. Like they're all kind of teasing her, you're lazy, and then I can't remember all the details, but it gets around to this waterfall, who's also just kind of laughing at her, and basically like through this interaction with this waterfall, she kind of realizes that they're all just laughing because the problems that seem so big to her in that moment are actually kind of really easy to just mindfully move away from. Right. And so like she wakes up from this vision, and she's like, oh, that's just a mood that I'm in, right. And I could just, you know, it's just kind of funny. Yeah. And so like she kind of takes from this like message of be yourself, emotions are emotions, and you can kind of choose how you interact with the world, and you can be really true to yourself without being kind of taken over by emotions. And I guess that's why I chose the name, because what I want to do with the music, I really want all of the songs to actually be about something. I've not really done that with my songs before. They've all just kind of been about how I've felt about different things that have happened to me, or just, you know, self-indulgent stuff,
like girls.
And like girls. Yeah. Whereas this time I wanted to actually kind of put messages into the songs, and so that's why I chose that name.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool. I don't know about that book. It sounded a bit like when you were describing it, I was like, I thought you were going to say like it was like The Shack or something like that. That is kind of also one of those books in the realm of like, is it fiction? Is it non-fiction?
Yeah.
Is it just a device to sell a book to market?
It's a great book, though. It is a really great book. It's good for like thinking about your mindset towards the world.
Oh, cool.
I would recommend.
Well, link in the description, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. You have to send me all this stuff afterwards. Cool. All right. My next question for you then is a record that changed your life.
Okay. This is really hard. I had to think about it before, and there's quite a lot that I would like to choose from. I think that I would land on I really want to say 2. I'm going to pick 1 though because that's kind of a cop out to pick 2. So
I suppose you can have 2 records that changed your life. I mean, to only have one thing, maybe. I don't know. You have to.
No, I'm gonna have 1. I'm gonna have 1 because this is like a Desert Island Disc style question.
All right. Okay.
And I have to stick to the rules.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick "Love Iron Song" by Frank Turner.
Okay.
So Frank Turner is one of my favorite musicians. I've probably been slightly less interested in him actually recently to what I was in the past, but this album was really important because I guess it was the first album that I listened to and I was like, yeah, this is how I write songs or want to write songs. And so it's kind of the first formation of like, you know, I'd listen to like loads of Green Day and be like, this sounds cool, but not like, this is how I want to write songs. And so even if I don't want them to sound exactly like the songs on Love Iron Song, it kind of inspired me to like, this is what I want to be about.
And he's kind of local to like where you're from, isn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, he's a Winchester guy. Well, he says he's a Winchester guy. He's a Meon Valley guy.
That's so specific. So specific.
Yeah.
And you've met Frank Turner, haven't you?
Yeah, I've met him a few times. I missed a bus back home in order to meet him once. Actually maybe that was the only time. Yeah, I've got a picture actually that you could insert if you wanted to of me in like a fleece jumper with like looking really young and shell shocked and yeah.
Was it you? Someone was telling me about. Oh no, that was someone else. Someone was telling me that they ended up getting a lift with like Frank Turner's mum or something, but that was somebody else.
Yeah, that's not me.
But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you think Frank Turner's writing probably inspired those sort of early self-indulgent kind of meaningless records that you were talking about?
Sort of. Like what I liked about Love Iron Song is that he used his own life feelings and experiences as a bit of a vehicle to push how he thought the world should operate. So I think that I started trying to do that, but I don't think it really ever came across until recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, my next question then is a gig that you went to that changed your life. If you can pick one.
Yeah, I'll pick one. So artist is King Charles, who, man, he's like, he just keeps switching his genres up, so I don't even know how to describe him. But he put out this kind of like indie, almost like reggae, folky indie album, was his first album. And I went to see him as that was coming out, or just before, or just after, I can't remember. But it was in this tiny room in Southampton called the Soul Cellar, which isn't a venue anymore.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know what it is now. But,
how is it? Is it smaller than Joiners?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It's the kind of room that people would like do their school projects performance in,
right?
You know? Like
okay.
that
yeah,
kind of vibe. Yeah. But the room was like absolutely packed, and it seems so. It's like so weird to talk about that during COVID times, isn't it? But like this being a good thing. But it was like absolutely packed, and the stage was kind of tiny, but he had like a full kind of full like backline of 2 gospel singers, like huge kind of timpanis, drum kit, and then like different synths and guitars. So it was just like stunning. It sounded just like incredible. He just kind of started out in his career, I guess. So it felt like an exciting time to go and see him. Yeah, that was just amazing.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. My lights just died. Ran out of battery.
Oh, no.
All right, I've got two more questions, because I feel like the question about what inspires you to write, I feel like we already covered maybe in your talking about your name. So what's the worst gig you've ever been to? And I know like some people are like, a gig is a gig, And I used to think that, but I have actually got a worst gig. So have you got a worst gig that you ever went to?
I'm interested in yours, but bear with me. Hang on. Let me just try and think of one. I'm trying to think. Like, I think it's hard because there have been bad gigs, but they're so forgettable that I can't remember who they are.
It's when they're so bad that you remember how bad they are. That's
yeah. So I'm gonna actually say, even though there were aspects of this gig that I really, really enjoyed, I'm gonna say the Red Hot Chili Peppers live at Nebworth Park,
right?
2012, maybe 2011. So obviously not a peak time to see the Red Hot Chilies because they've kind of gone way past the Stadium Arcadium, which was probably the last album that I properly enjoyed.
Right. Okay.
But it was the Red Hot Chilies, and it was like a bucket list kind of gig. But it was just the crowd was so awful. Honestly, it was a horrible experience because of that. Because it was like standing around all day. The support acts were wicked, so obviously we wanted to see everyone. Dizzy Rascal was one of them.
Nice. Get your money's worth.
But to do that, we had to suffer through really violent crowd. I didn't expect that from a Red Hot Chili's gig, but like very violent crowd. It went past the point of moshing to kind of like moshing between the acts and straight up like punching during the act. And there was all sorts of like fluids being thrown around. There were bottles of urine literally being thrown the entire time. Maybe like 7 hours of standing there with like urine flying around, like hard as well. Like people were like throwing bottles really hard with urine in them. I was like, how is this enjoyable? So that was really bad. And then on top of that, to make things worse, I went with a friend, and we took a coach, and we got back to Southampton just after 3 a.m. But ridiculously, we both fell asleep on the way back, and the coach stopped at Basingstoke, which wasn't on the agenda. And my friend, who was also called Ben, just like woke up and started getting off the coach. And I was like still kind of asleep. I was like just waking up. I didn't really know what was happening. I saw that he'd like got off the coach, and I was like, oh, it must be time to get off the coach. And then this coach started moving again, and I realised that he just like gotten off at Basingstoke. And then I got back to Southampton and missed the last flipping bus home. So he actually got home before me by taking another train home.
So you had to like sit in the
nightmare.
station till like 5:30 whenever the first train runs or whatever.
And then I got on the earliest bus, and I was wearing a horrible poncho that for some reason I had decided to purchase at this Red Hot Chili's gig. And I smelt of all sorts of things, one of them being urine. And people were kind of coming out of the club that I hadn't seen since school. Someone got on the bus with me that I hadn't seen since school. He just straight up ignored me.
Wow. So it wasn't so much that the gig was bad, it was just all of the stuff surrounding the gig.
Exactly.
Falling asleep. But at least I kind of think he dodged the bullet not getting off in Basingstoke, personally. But
Basingstoke is awful. Actually, I have this might be an irrelevant story, but I've actually also ended up accidentally in Basingstoke after the last train as well. And even worse, it was while I was living in Surbiton, and I ended up getting £100 taxi back to Surbiton.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was bad.
Wow. Well, those are the good old days when we could go to gigs and go on the train and all of that stuff. So, swings and roundabouts.
Good times.
I guess, so just the last thing then, because you're going to play a couple of songs for us in just a sec. I'm actually, I used your song. I'm going to use your song as the intro to this to this series because I like it so much.
Nice.
Which is called not yet recyclable, not yet recycled,
Not yet widely recycled.
not yet widely recycled. My bad.
It's the phrase that's on all of the plastic.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So what? Where can we find your music? Do you have social media? I know you feel very strongly about social media, so
Yeah, like I love social media in some ways, and I think one of them is that it's a great kind of space to share your what you're doing. So for example, music, obviously I'm definitely in favor of people sharing their music on social media and getting involved, and I do have social media. I'm just very terrible at keeping it up because I've not really done much with the music yet for Waterfalls Laugh, because life and everything, but yeah, I have a Facebook page. I think I have an Instagram as well, I'm not sure.
Wow, out there. TikTok?
I'll let you know. Not on TikTok yet. Yeah, but you can find there's 2 songs on Spotify, and Spotify actually will be the place where more songs will land, hopefully over the next few months. I'm going to try and I've got 2 songs that are very nearly finished, so I'm going to try and whack those out as well.
Great, that's really great. Cool. So yeah, you're going to play some songs now. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being my first guest.
It's an honour.
Do you have anything you want to say to the viewers at home before I leave you to sing your songs?
No, I think my songs will say it all.
All right.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to hand straight over to Ben now. Ben, or Waterfalls Laugh. Let's hear some songs.
Instagram is leading millions of people astray by making them care about what cruel people say. The way they look when they pose, posting coffee shops and the coffee that they have gathered. They don't even like that much, and I've seen the comments and I know they're invested. Now people a bit beautiful if we don't really test it, 'cause they know it's not real. They're scared it might be. What if they can't be a part of it? You don't talk to me. Yes, you talk to me. Your phone screen, you don't listen. You don't talk to me. Yes, you talk to me. Your phone screen, you don't listen. I'm not saying iPhones shouldn't exist. They're great for connecting and crossing with friends and family. But you might not connect with them when you're sad opposite me. You don't talk to me. Yes, you're talking through your phone screen. You don't listen. You don't talk to me. Yes, you're talking through your phone screen. You don't listen. I will perpetually focus on what could be till I can't see you again. shows essential mental. I think I'm scared to say I love my life. Something in me says that I'll need to get going, but it won't. It's not linked. I won't blink and lose everything by admitting I'm happy. I'm now considerably more fearful of the future now that I have more felt potential, missed just essential. I think I'm scared to say I love my life. Something in me says that I'll need to get going, but it won't. It's not linked. I won't blink and lose everything by admitting I'm happy. I tried so hard to rub in my natural deodorant. I sold my car, but mainly for financial improvement. My cab was broke, 'cause I got a fat phone instead of an iPhone. My lens is woke, still haven't changed.